Well, welcome to our second general session, and thank you so much again to Bishop State's own Robert McWilliams for sharing his amazing musical talents with us. The Executive Committee hopes that you are enjoying the conference thus far and that you enjoyed last night's Diamond Jubilee reception, celebrating how brightly you shine in our system. And someone else who has shone brightly this conference has been our students. We've had some amazing student talent on display. For the Chancellor's Award reception, we had the Wallace Express from Wallace Community College in Dothan. So thank you so much, Dr. Linda Young and Dean Leslie Reeder, for allowing them to make the journey. And then also we had Coastal's choir last night, and they were incredible. So thank you, President Fraser Payne, for letting them attend. Please remember that door prize winners are being announced on the screen. You are invited to pick up your door prizes after the last session today. And we hope you have won one of the wonderful door prizes. This year we did something a little different with college baskets. So there have been a lot of wonderful baskets that have been selected. So thank you again for those baskets to the colleges. Also, please check the conference website. We also did a little something new this year with a photo gallery. You may see your image appear on the conference website, and you can take some memories from the conference after that. And if you brought one of our banners with you, please make sure that you take those home with you. I don't know if Mobile will mail them to us, so please make sure that you take those. Again, thank you so far for a wonderful conference, and it is now my pleasure to introduce Mobile Chamber President Bradley Byrne to welcome us today. Mr. Byrne has more than 30 years of experience as an attorney in private practice and almost that same amount of time in public service. He has spent 4 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives and has led initiatives that have increased access to education and to job training, something that is very near and dear to the community college system. He has benefited Alabama's workforce, business, and education entities alike. Prior to serving in Congress, Mr. Byrne was an elected member of the Alabama State Board of Education and the Alabama Senate, and he also served as chancellor for our college system. Please join me in welcoming Bradley Byrne.
Well, good morning, everybody. Let's see if I can outdo Rick Bragg. I love Rick. He's got such a wonderful sense of humor and great storytelling. Welcome to Mobile. I came to this conference for the first time 3 weeks after I was elected to the State Board of Education in November of 1994. So I've been associated with this system for almost half of its existence. And there are some dear friends out there in the audience. I won't call you out by name, but you know who you are. It warms my heart to see you, and it warms my heart to see all of you. I am talking to the most important group of people in the state of Alabama. Now, I'm not just saying that because you're in this room. We have unprecedented opportunities for the people in this state, but only if they have the education and the expertise to take advantage of it. Bringing these jobs to this state, as we've done all over this state, is important, and we have to fill those jobs for our economy to be successful. But each time a person moves into one of those jobs, it lifts up them and it lifts up their families. So if we train 10,000 people this year in your system, and those 10,000 people get a good job that pays good money, we've just lifted up 10,000 families. That's the way you have to look at it. Well, it doesn't happen on its own. That first conference that I went to in 1994, I walked away from it and said, wow, I had no idea the two-year college system did all of that. Well, now you're still doing all of that and then some. And all of what you do, adult education, the two-year transfer program, the career technical education, all of that is adding to the knowledge and expertise of the people of our state. And yes, you are lifting up Alabama literally every day. So thank you for what you do. This Thanksgiving, I thank the Lord for you and what you have done. And as you approach Thanksgiving, I hope you'll be safe on the way home. We have ordered the rain to stop for you. The Chamber of Commerce has that power. But I hope you'll take some time over Thanksgiving to think about what you and your colleagues are doing every day. And I hope you will see and understand the appreciation that you have from so many people in this state. We're glad you're in Mobile. We hope you have a good remainder of your conference. And let us all say together, God bless the great state of Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne, and what you mean to our system and to Ingram State as well. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite our Diamond sponsors, Greg Smith with General Manager of Central Region for the Layer 3 Communications, Robert Littleton, Vice President of Goodwill Mills and Kaywood, to bring greetings, as well as Lisa Finley with McKee & Associates. Please come up. We certainly couldn't do what we do for this conference without our great Diamond sponsors, and they're sponsors for our general sessions, and we really appreciate all of you. We'll start with Greg Smith.
Thank you. And thank you all for letting us participate in your conference. We really do appreciate it. I was telling my folks that are with me that when you find yourself with the ability to do something you're passionate about with people that you grow to care about and who are good back to you, you find yourself double blessed in life. And we consider ourselves so. Layer 3 is a part of an overall company organized under MGT Consulting. Now, I won't bother you with what all we do other than to say it's IT product services and cybersecurity, both on the preventive and helping people recover once they've been tagged, if you will. MGT provides financial consulting, curriculum consulting, inclusion, and that type of planning for education and governmental agencies. So that's what all we do for a living. Our company motto is having a positive impact on the communities in which we're engaged. Y'all afford us the opportunity to do that. Working with hospitals around the state, if we can help them provide better care through IT and its services and technology, that's a positive that we can take a lot of pride in. But also helping the educational organizations in the state provide education and training for both young people and older people like myself seeking adult education is a real benefit too that we take a lot of pride in. And you know, it's not always about, I guess, the technology. It's what you can do with it to help those communities in which you're engaged. So I'll shut the infomercial down and tell you all we really appreciate you and appreciate the opportunity to be here and to work with the overall organization and the individual universities, colleges every day. Thank y'all.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, my name is Robert Littleton. I'm the Vice President of Architecture for Goodwill Mills and Kaywood. We are probably one of the largest A&E firms in the Southeast with over 500 employees and several offices in the Southeast. And, you know, one of our monikers inside the company is building communities. And when I think about the two-year system in Alabama, I think about the community that we have here with the people that are in this room and the relationships that I have with the people not only in North Alabama but throughout the state. And many of you have heard me tell my story that I'm a product of the two-year college system, and it was a springboard for me to become an architect in the state of Alabama, and I'm very thankful for that and thankful to be a part of what you do, and it really makes a difference in my life, and I know it makes a difference in others as well. Thank you, and I hope you have a great holiday.
Hey, good morning. As President Funderburk said, I'm Lisa Finley with McKee & Associates, and I have the honor of representing Walter and Sewell McKee and the entire McKee firm. They don't like for me to say family because sometimes they feel like I'm leaving out the firm, but we all are family. But I do get the honor to work with them, and certainly the honor to work with a lot of you today. I always try to follow the model of Walter and Sewell McKee, and instead of talking about ourselves, we want to try to motivate you in some way, and a lot of times I use my morning devotional. Well, I don't know if this was fortunate or unfortunate, but it talked about the prayers of Elijah and how it didn't rain for 3 years because Elijah prayed for no rain. and so apparently Elijah prayed yesterday because Scripture says that after 3 years, the clouds did come over and the rain did fall. So I guess thank you, Larry Stockstill, for that devotion today. But seriously, we do consider it an honor to work with all of you, and we are grateful for those of you that have given us the opportunity to talk with you. And like the gentleman said before, you know, we're not going to talk a lot about what we do. We like to show you what we do, and relationships are extremely important to us, and we appreciate those relationships we've been able to build with you. And in this time of Thanksgiving, I echo what Robert said, and we were talking about earlier, it's funny how people think, oh, they're competitors, but we're actually all really good friends until we have to compete for a project, and then we're a bunch of barracudas in a pool. But you don't see that. You don't get to see that. But we also come out, we dry off with our towels, and we're having dinner again, right? But seriously, I hope you do enjoy your families during this Thanksgiving and Christmas season, and just remember, you know, what we're all truly celebrating, and be grateful for the time that you have with your families and friends. And thank you all for the opportunity for us to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support and your support of the ACCA conference, all of our community colleges. We appreciate you very much. Now I have the opportunity, and I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker for this session, Ryan Hawk. Ryan's keynote is sponsored by the Alabama Community College System, and Chancellor, we appreciate your leadership. The presidents had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Hawk via Zoom at one of our President's Association meetings, and it was truly motivational, and we appreciate your leadership, Chancellor, for bringing us Ryan Hawk to the President's Association, as well as your forethought to have him here today. Ryan is the host of the Learning Leader Show. Forbes calls the Learning Leader Show the most dynamic leadership podcast around. Inc. magazine said it's one of the 5 podcasts to make you a smarter leader. Apple named it an all-time bestseller in 2020 and 2021. He is the author of Welcome to Management, How to Grow from Top Performer to Excellent Leader. Ryan's second book is called The Pursuit of Excellence, The Uncommon Behaviors of the World's Most Productive Achievers. And that's what we listened to was the theme of our conversation at the President's Conference. And this book has sold through its first printing in 8 hours and shot to the top of the Amazon rankings. Ryan worked in corporate America for 12 years. He started an entry-level telephonic sales representative and worked his way to manager, director, and ultimately VP of sales for a multi-billion-dollar company. When he's not recording podcasts or writing books, he tries to help leaders to be more efficient. Some of the ways that he does that are his leadership circles, one-on-one advising and teaching in the Learning Leader Academy, the online school that he's created. He's delivered hundreds of keynote speakers on leadership and performance throughout the world, and we appreciate him spending his time with us today to help us be better leaders and better servers. Mr. Hawk, thank you.
Whoa, all right. Thank you guys for having me. What a cool room to be in. What a cool event to be a part of. As mentioned before, I got to speak on Zoom, months ago, and I was most excited about the level of engagement, the excitement from everyone I was speaking to, and I was really looking forward to being with you today. So a little bit more about my background. I've spent the past 9 years interviewing the world's most effective leaders for my podcast, which is called The Learning Leader Show. It's really me following my own curiosity around what I find to be most interesting when it comes to leaders and effectiveness. So these are people who are CEOs of large companies, entrepreneurs, special forces warriors, professional athletes, people who have done extraordinary things for a sustained period of time. One of my favorite questions is, what have you found to be the commonalities among leaders who have sustained excellence over time? And so today, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've learned through the course of both my life as well as interviewing all these amazing people. I'm also going to share how I've tried to implement them into my life, some of the results that I've gotten, and then also how you can implement them into your life. So if we'll pull up, I think it's important that I actually share with you how I grade myself on how this goes. These are things that I think about most. I'm going to give you my email address at the end of this. I'm going to ask for you to send me notes. I'm happy to respond to any of them because I like, much like those in education, I like knowing how I do. I like knowing how I impact an audience. So there's really three things I think about when it comes to talking and sharing and teaching. One, I think I should challenge how you think. I think by the end of this, you should rethink something about your life, something about how you lead, something about how you interact with other people. So I should challenge how you think. Two, the stories I share and the way in which I do it and the enthusiasm in which I do it with should move you emotionally. They should actually make you really feel something. So right, first think, second feel, third, what I'm doing should create some sort of behavior change for each person here. I realize this is a tall task. This is not necessarily easy. I'm trying my best to do excellent work. And so I'm grading myself on, do I challenge how you think? Do I move you through some sort of emotion based on how I perform what I'm doing today? And then do I create some sort of behavior change, some sort of action? Which then ultimately you as leaders in this room, not only does it impact you, but more importantly, it impacts everybody in your life. I love thinking about the ripple effect us as leaders as we can have, not just on the people directly next to us and the people directly that we're leading, but everybody in their lives too. Think about the power that we all have as leaders, and I want us to use that power for good. So, a few things. This is a picture of me with one of my heroes, probably like at the top of the list of leadership mentors. There's a guy named Jim Collins. That's Jim right there in that picture. Jim wrote a book called Good to Great. He wrote some other ones, Built to Last, Great by Choice, all really excellent leadership management books. Good to Great was like the first leadership book for me that actually hit all three of those things. It hit me, made me rethink myself. It made me feel something emotionally, and it created behavior change. So I was lucky to have the opportunity years ago to have a conversation with Jim, and I was very excited. I was very animated. I was talking really fast, and I was telling, hey, Jim, you should see what I'm doing. You got to hear my why. You got to look at what I'm doing. Look at my how. And Jim said, whoa, calm down. Take a deep breath. Because all those things, while they're important, the single greatest determining factor in your long-term success or failure will be your who. Who will be your friends? Who will be your partners? Who will you choose to marry? Who will you intentionally choose to surround yourself with and spend time with? That is what you will become. So while all that other stuff is great, how are you when it comes to your who? And I thought at the time that I'd done okay, but I wasn't really intentional about my who. Who am I surrounded? I just kind of like let it happen based on my job, based on kind of friends from high school and college, and after that, I realized at that point I wasn't really intentional about my who, and I needed to be. So I really broke it down into three things, and I want you to think about this for your life, and to actually, if you're taking notes, to jot some of these things down and to think about this, because this is some action you could take immediately following this conference. So the question ultimately is, who is your who? Who are those people in your life? And when you think about how you orchestrate and design your who, there's really three different columns of people that I think that you could put into your who. Okay. Next slide, please. Here we go. First is, who is ahead of you? So ahead of you are those people who have accomplished what you want to accomplish. More importantly, they've done it in a way in which you deeply admire, right? Who's ahead of you? Who are those people who are a little bit further along, right? That you've said like, wow, I really love the way Ashley's done that. I want to do that, right? I need somebody like that in my life. Or maybe you're fortunate to already have that person in your life. So I want you to rate these level of relationships from 1 to 5, right? A 5 being you have regularly scheduled conversations with the people. A 1, these are people that are aspirational, okay? Right? That's ahead. Second is who's beside you. And maybe that's why conferences like this could be pretty awesome. Maybe some of those beside interactions could start here. But these are people who are walking down a similar path, maybe a similar age, but not necessarily, right? You're walking down a similar path, similar goals. You want to go to similar spaces, right? 2 rules for the people beside you. 1, judgment-free zone, right? We are not going to judge each other when we mess up. We're human beings. We're messy. We mess up, right? Judgment-free zone. And 2, we are genuinely excited for each other when it goes well. Genuinely excited, right? 2. So that's big. So rate it 5 to 1, right? A level 5 is somebody who is right there. We have regularly scheduled conversations all the time. They're right there. They're beside me. A 1 is aspirational. Again, maybe you found somebody here that could become part of this beside. If so, that would be fantastic. Okay. 3. All right. Put the behind one up if we could. There we go. Behind. So behind is who are those people that want to accomplish what you want to accomplish, but they're not quite as far along as you are, right? They're not quite there yet. And you as a leader who cares about people, right, given what you do for your profession, this is probably natural for a lot of you, right? You want to help them. 2 reasons why this is good. 1, it is simply the right thing to do to help those who are not as far along as we are. And 2, as you know, especially in education, teaching is one of the greatest tools for learning I've ever found, right? Whenever you're tasked with writing an essay about a specific topic, the process of getting the thoughts out of your head onto the page, a lot of learning happens. Whenever you're asked to give a presentation or to meet with a mentee and you want to add value to their life, putting yourself in the role of being a teacher, hugely beneficial for you when it comes to learning. So 1, right thing to do. 2, learn a lot. Again, rate these. 5 is a regularly scheduled conversations. You regularly are meeting. A 1 is aspirational. Now remember, for the people behind you, there is, in some cases, an intimidation factor. Some people are afraid or intimidated because of everything that you've accomplished. And so we, as leaders, need to be proactive and look and seek out people to pour into them, to help them, more so than just waiting for people to ask us, because we realize, given all you've accomplished and all you've done, some people are afraid to do that. So as leaders, let's go first, right? Let's be the ones to initiate that. Again, so think about all 3 of these: ahead, beside, behind. I would love to get an email from you 6 months from now that you say, hey, my ahead, beside, behind was just okay. I was strong in 1 or 2, and now I've worked to make changes. I've reached out to people. I'm working on developing these relationships. All 3 of them are in a much better place. That would be an amazing, amazing win to receive an email like that 6 months from now. So think about those: ahead, beside, behind. Your who is who you're going to become. Okay, let's go to the next one. So I am a huge admirer of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are, they're some of the richest humans on the planet, but that's not really what I admire about them. I more admire the way that they approach the world, the way that they try to help people. And I love reading pretty much everything they've ever had to say when it comes to development, when it comes to growth. And Charlie Munger has this quote about becoming a learning machine. And let's go to the next one. And I think this is one of my favorite ones. So he says, I constantly see people who rise in life, right? Not the smartest, not even the most diligent, but they are learning machines. They go to bed every night a little bit wiser than they were when they got up, right? So to me, I think, as someone who runs a podcast called The Learning Leader Show, going to bed a little bit wiser every night than I was when I woke up seems like probably the natural thing we need to do. But the power of compounding happens when every day you think about, what am I doing today to be a little bit wiser going to bed? What books am I reading? What mentors am I meeting with? What podcasts am I listening to, right? Who am I surrounding myself with to go to bed a little bit wiser than it was when I got up? That, to me, I think is what it means to be a learning machine. So I actually tried to map out a perfect day to say, what does it mean to be a learning machine? And to me, like, I don't think this can be something that is I got to check that box or do this every once in a while. I think learning and development for all of us as both individuals, as leaders of people, needs to be part of our default setting, meaning that's just what we do. Each day, this is how we think about it. This is how we operate. Learning and development is not a once in a while thing. It's an all the time thing. It's a part of our regular workflow, right? And so to me, like, here's like the perfect day if I want to be a learning machine. I really like marked it into 4 different spots that ensure learning happens, okay? So first, there's got to be this fueling of my intake engine, right? I have to fuel that. That comes from, again, reading books, listening to podcasts, meeting with mentors, talking to people who are far wiser than me. That fuels that intake engine, right? 2, though, you can't just be the reader who takes notes and sits in the corner. We have to be a doer. We have to be someone who actually puts it into action. So we fuel the intake engine, and then we immediately have the mind of an experimenter putting it into action. Because we learn who we are in practice, not in theory. Like, we actually learn most by doing it. 3, though, we got to reflect. We got to pause. We got to step back. We need a little silence of each of these days to think about what's working, what's not, what should I keep doing, what should I stop doing, what should I start doing, right? Based on your intake engine, based on the experiments you're running, now you're going to think about that. You're going to reflect, right? I think too many of us don't have enough time in our days for reflection. We just go to the next thing. And that I think inhibits us over time. And then 4th, as mentioned when it comes to the person behind you, put yourself regularly in the position to teach. When I work with senior leaders, this is one of the number 1 things I ask them all the time. When's the next time you're teaching? When is the next time that you are leading the training at your company? Not just like, oh no, that's for other people to do. No. As leaders, we should always be regularly putting ourselves in the position to teach, to train, right? That's when so much learning happens. You get very clear when you have to teach. It's funny how it works when it comes to, I've written a couple books, when it comes to the book writing element from start to finish. You actually write a book proposal, which only has like a couple sample chapters. Then you got to write like a big marketing plan, and then you shop it to all the book publishers. That's how I didn't realize this at the beginning, but I learned that's how the process works. So you write like just a couple sample chapters. You write the title of the book. You have this huge idea. All of a sudden, a publisher says, yes, I want to buy that. I will give you a book advance. And then you get about a year to write the actual book. And the crazy thing is, I remember this very vividly from my first book, which is called Welcome to Management. I had written the proposal. There's a couple sample chapters. And I got the book deal from a publisher and thought like, oh my God, I thought I knew all of this stuff until I'm forced to write a book about it. And to me, the process then, that year-long process of really gathering my thoughts and trying to teach somebody else, because ultimately that's what writing a book is. I think it's what writing is. You're trying to teach the reader something. That's when the most learning happened for me, was that process from going from, you got this, now you got a deadline, you got to get it done. So teaching is a super important part of that perfect day. So I think this is, for me, this is how I ensure I'm becoming a learning machine. This is how I ensure I'm going to bed a little bit wiser than I woke up. And I'd ask you that same question. At the end of each day, I think prompts are great. I think questions are awesome, right? We can answer questions. It's easy than just to look at a blank page if we're going to journal. But if you ask yourself a few questions, right? There's great questions about gratitude and things like that. And I think those are awesome, and I highly encourage that. But one question I would consider adding if you're a journaler or if you're someone who likes to reflect at the end of days is, what did I do today to be a little bit wiser now as I'm going to bed than I was when I woke up? And if you can answer in the affirmative day after day after day, oh, I had this conversation with that person. Oh, I read this book. Oh, I watched that. Oh, I taught that class, or I did this. Day after day after day, that will compound. And day after day, just to see your trajectory, instead of just going like this, like a lot of us, if we're not intentional, it goes more like this. to me, like, that's exciting. Like, that's really, that pumps me up to think about what trajectory am I putting myself on. I want us all to think like this. All to be like, no, we're not just going to ride the roller coaster of life. We're going to be more intentional about each of our days, about going to bed a little bit wiser than we woke up. And I promise you, good opportunities seem to arise for people who are good about that. Okay. All right, third one. This comes from a Navy SEAL I recorded with. This guy's name is Jay Hennessy, and he is one of my ultimate heroes. 26 years, Navy SEAL. He lives in Cleveland, Ohio now, lived in San Diego and Virginia Beach, and he spent time all over the world doing some crazy stuff. And he's the most humble guy maybe I've ever met. And that is one of the, I just love him so much, and I'm super appreciative for him. Obviously, as someone who's defended our country, I hold them the highest regard. It's not something I've done, but they're just the best. So anyway, I'm talking to Jay Hennessy, and we're recording. And he brings up this phrase called pushing your edges. Because I asked him, I'm like, what do you look for like other SEALs? Like when you're going to have people who are going to be side by side with you on these missions to go where their life is in your hands and vice versa, what do you look for? And he goes, I need to be surrounded by people who are regularly pushing their edges. What does that mean, Jay? What do you mean pushing your edges? And he said, like all of us right now, we have this current zone right here, every person in this room, of comfort and competency. Like right now, we're all a certain amount of level of comfort, and we're a certain level of competency. We're a certain level of smarts and intelligence. And I want people, as he said to me, who are banging on those edges, who push and push and push every single day, because I know they're going to be battle tested. They're going to be battle ready. There's no situation we could go into they're not going to be ready to go. And now obviously not all of us in here are fighting war. Some of you probably have, but not everybody's doing that on a regular basis. I'm saying this is something we can learn from those who have done it on some of those life and death stages that we can put into our lives that are not life and death when it comes to how we push our edges. And so like this is like how the visual I kind of brought it to life, because as he said to me, and he's pretty harsh and he's very straight to the point. Like nobody really cares what you used to be able to do when it comes to the SEALs. They care what you can do now. And the only way to be in a better position now than you were before is to be regularly pushing your edges. Thinking about the things in your life that should not be comfortable. Like at the end of the day, when you're again doing your journaling or thinking or reflecting on the day, it's what did I do today to push my edges? What was tough? What was I scared to do but did it anyway? And that brings out a personal story for me. So years ago, at the beginning of when I was doing my podcast, I recorded one with this guy on the screen named Chris Borland. Chris is actually from the same place where I'm from, which is Dayton, Ohio. We went to different high schools. I went to a public school. He went to a private school. Chris went to college at the University of Wisconsin, where he played a linebacker, undersized linebacker for the Wisconsin Badgers. Great player. Got drafted in the third round by the San Francisco 49ers. Had a really good rookie season, made the all-rookie team, made a bunch of tackles. And it looks like the sky was the limit for Chris's career. And he decided to retire after one season. He walked away from the game. And he said he was fearful that he had some head trauma, had some concussions throughout the course of that first season, and was scared he was going to do permanent damage on his head if he'd stayed playing football. And he walked away from all the money. He gave back the bulk of the signing bonus. So he walks away with nothing after one season of football. It made national news at the time. And Chris was on all of the national big-time TV shows because he walked away from millions and millions of dollars in a long NFL career because he was a very good player. And being a fellow Dayton guy, I asked Chris to come on my podcast in the early days, and he said yes. We recorded my podcast. It went really well. We had never met prior to that day, but it went really well. We said, let's stay friends. So after that podcast gets recorded, Chris actually gives me a call. I missed the call. He leaves me a voicemail. I listen to the voicemail, and he says, hey, Ryan, it's Chris. I have a great opportunity for you. Call me back. And so my mind starts spinning. I'm thinking of all these cool ideas of what it could be, because this guy, again, was all over the place, like one of the more famous guys during this time because he walked away. I remember walking into the bedroom, my wife Miranda is there, and I said, hey, Chris Borland just left me a voicemail. Said it's a great opportunity. I wonder if he wants to start a business together, or he wants to do an event in San Francisco together where he was still living. I wonder what he wants to do. This is amazing. She's like, cool, call him back. So I called him back. Hey, Chris, it's Ryan. What's up, man? What's the opportunity? He's like, oh, thanks for calling me back. So I'm actually coming back to Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and I'm doing this Ironman 70.2 triathlon, and I'm going to do the run. My brother's going to do the bike. We were wondering if you would do the swim. It's like a relay race. And I said, is that the opportunity you were talking about? And he said, well, yeah, man, it's going to be cool. We'll be teammates. And I go, well, what does that entail? And he said, it's only a 1.2 mile swim. And I actually thought for a second, 1.2 miles doesn't sound that bad. It doesn't sound that long. I can run it even if I'm not in shape. And I said, oh, and he goes, but here's the thing about the swim, though. You go first, and you got to finish in under an hour and 10 minutes, or our entire team gets disqualified. And I said, hold on a second, Chris. Did you say an hour and 10 minutes or 10 minutes? No. 1.2 miles would take you some time. An hour and 10 minutes. I said, hey, man, the longest that I've ever swam is 25 meters back in second grade on the Black Oak Swim Club. I was pretty good. A lot of blue ribbons. Not bad, right? Played sports. Pretty fast. But 25 takes 10 seconds, and now you're telling me I got to swim for an hour? Yeah. Oh, there's no way. Sorry, man, I love you, but there is no possible way I'm doing that. Good luck. And he goes, wow, all right. If you can think of anybody, call me back. Okay, cool. So I go back in the bedroom, and my wife's there. Miranda's sitting there. Kind of shoulder slump, bad body language, a little dejected because I was excited, and now I was let down. And I go in the room, and I look, and she's kind of sitting there, and I just said, she's like, what is it? I'm like, it's nothing. He's doing some triathlon, and it's not really an opportunity at all. She's like, well, what's the opportunity? And she said, well, I go, well, he's doing a triathlon. He's doing the run. His brother's going to do the bike, and they haven't found anybody to do the swim. Swim is the one nobody really wants to do. And so obviously that's not an opportunity that I'm going to do. But he asked if I'd do it. And I remember she said, oh, okay. And I looked over again, and I said, well, what is it? And she said, it's nothing. It's all good. And I think I envision so many of my friends, so many of the guys, especially in this audience, that have had this exact conversation, right? Where you say something and you fully realize as you're saying it that you're an idiot, that you're wrong. When they go, oh, it's nothing. Miranda is the best. She's the opposite of a nagging wife. She is just the greatest, right? Literally, I got very lucky. So when she said nothing, and I said, well, whenever they say nothing, it usually means a lot of things, right? So I look over again. I got this look. If you guys want to put it up on screen, this is the way she looked at me when I looked over again after I said what a third time. Sorry. It looked like that, right? She just said, what are you doing? So I said, well, what? And she goes, okay. I love you and support you. I've got to travel the world with you. We had this incredible European trip where I spoke on a few stages and got to enjoy some of the parts as a work/vacation just a little bit before this. So I've traveled the world with you. We've had so much fun. And one of the core parts of your message, said in a number of different ways, is You have to leap outside of your comfort zone, right? Some of the generic stuff you've heard before. This is earlier in my career, right? You have to jump outside of it. That's where all the growth happens. That's the magic. That's everything. You tell everybody that, and I agree with you. I think it's true. We obviously are in alignment. It is awesome. But the second that you get the chance to actually live it out yourself and do it, you say no? You're a fraud if you keep saying this stuff. You tell everybody, you get a chance. Yes, I don't think it would be comfortable. I don't think you do a great job. I know you can do it though. I know you could if you're willing to work, you could probably do it. So I think you only really have a couple of options here. One, you have to stop saying that. You have to take that out of your message, take it out of who you are, take it out of everything you share with the people you're working with. Or you call him back and you say yes, and you find a way. Chris, it's Ryan. I guess I'm going to do this. Are you sure, man? Really? No, I'm not sure. But, yeah, I guess I'm going to do it. Okay, man, you have 8 weeks. 1.2 miles. Remember, don't mess this up. Under an hour and 10 minutes. If you get pulled out of that water, we don't get to go. All right, man. Great. So the next call I make is actually to another former podcast guest who was an Olympian, actually a swimmer. Bronze medal, Beijing Olympics. Her name is Caroline Burkle. Caroline, I just signed up to swim 1.2 miles in under an hour and 10 minutes. What in the world should I do to train for this? I remember she goes, oh, that would be so easy. Yeah, easy for you. You could swim all day. I can't do that. What should I do? She goes, no, I got you. I will send you the long distance training for some of my teammates. I'm like, wow, okay, great. So she sends me that. I see this long PDF of all this stuff. I print it out, and I remember then what I did do, if you guys show up on the screen, what I decided to do moving forward was this is what I looked at every single day. Washington Township Rec Center, which is right down the street from my house. I signed up, I got a membership, and I looked at this black line Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the next 8 weeks. Saturday and Sunday, we'd go to actually open water to a lake near our home, and my wife and my daughters would be playing on the beach having fun, and some idiot would be out in the middle of the open water swimming side by side. That would be me trying to get a feel for what it's like in the open water swimming where I'd be racing. To me, if you think about like the toughest times in your life or the things you're most scared of, I'm not necessarily going to win by being more brilliant than other people, but I think I have a shot to win through enduring over time. Preparation is the greatest medicine for fear. If you're really, really scared for a big moment, one of the ways to, I think, bring that fear level down is to be over-prepared. Staring at this black line day after day after day helped lower those levels of fear for me. Whatever the big thing you have coming up or the big thing you're considering doing, I'm guessing your fear level will decrease if you are over-prepared. Big tests, big presentation, right? We all remember the test or presentation or time we showed up and we didn't prepare. Yeah, I was super nervous, very scared, because I'm not prepared, right? Being over-prepared for these big moments, doing whatever you can so that you show up, you feel good, I think is critical. And so this is everything to me when it comes to big moments, is being over-prepared. Podcast interview, I'm nervous about the guest. Read everything, watch everything, take diligent notes, big outline, be ready to go before I do that interview. Whatever it takes to be over-prepared, so when the day comes, I can just let it fly. So I do this for 8 weeks. Fast forward to race day. We get to race day. I got a wetsuit. I see Chris and his brother. We're all excited, and I notice another guy. He looks like he's in good shape, young guy. I looked at him, and I thought, did I get fired? Who is this other guy? Good shape, good-looking guy. Chris goes, hey, I want you to meet my friend. I met him when I was playing for the 49ers. He's actually one of the top writers for ESPN. I asked him to write a story about us because, along with this race, I am trying to raise money for this retired NFL Players Fund for people who have had issues post-NFL life. And this story could help shine a bright light on us and my mission to raise this money for a great cause. And I thought at the time, as if you couldn't add another level of pressure, because all I was envisioning was this story on ESPN.com or in the magazine at the time saying, Chris Borland tried to do a good thing, got the wrong swim partner though, didn't finish the race, still raised a little bit of money, but probably would have done better if he actually finished the entire race. Anyway, that's going through my head, but I feel pretty good. I'm pretty prepared. We get into the water, start the race. I'm swimming. I actually felt not bad. The one thing you can't prepare for, and maybe there's somebody here who's done a triathlon, there's just so many people in the water. You're like swimming on top. You're hitting each other. It's really kind of a pain. But anyway, I'm kind of making my way. And the way the race is set up is you start on a beach. You swim straight out really far to get to a buoy. Then you take a left-hand turn and you swim all a long way that way. And eventually you get to another buoy where you take another left-hand turn where then you swim back to the beach. And that's 1.2 miles, under an hour and 10 minutes. So I get out in the water, I'm swimming. All I'm thinking about is like, oh, can I get to this first buoy and make the turn? I make the turn. I find a little bit of open water, doing okay, because some people are dying, they're hurting, obviously hadn't trained enough. I do this because they were actually laying on their back swimming. I noticed some people at the beginning just like trying to get some air. But anyway, I make my left-hand turn, and all I think is get to that buoy, make a left turn, and sprint as hard as you can. I don't know what my time is, but I feel like it's okay. It's hard to know. I get to the buoy, I turn left, and I start sprinting as fast as I possibly can to get up to that beach. And I eventually made it up to the beach, and all I'm thinking about is seeing my family members there, seeing Chris, seeing his brother. And I finally make it up there. You look at this like ugly look on my face as I'm running up the beach in massive pain. On my left ankle, you see there is something that is timing me. That's our timer, that all three of us need to wear the same timer. All I want to do is get up to that beach, take off that timer, and hand it to my partner. Eventually, I get up there, I take off the timer, I hand it to Chris's brother, and I looked at him and I said, hey, what's my time? Are we still alive? And he looked at his watch and he said, 41 minutes. We're good. We're good. Yes, yeah. 41 minutes. And so Chris's brother goes, crushes the bike. Chris does a pretty fast triathlon, especially for a big linebacker, right? And we actually did okay in this race. It's still online. You could look it up. It was in Columbus, an Ironman 70.2. It's great. And we finished the race. But the coolest thing about the story, right? I'm glad we did it. Raised good money. Coolest thing, I'm actually, this time, this is in the early days of my career, I'm interviewing. I'm still working a regular job. My podcast is doing on the side. I was interviewing for a big promotion. I was a director level at a company called LexisNexis, and I was going to be a VP of North American sales for our sister company owned by the same parent company called Elsevier Clinical Solutions. A job I'd never done before, leading leaders, $500 million in revenue, huge job, and I was in the final 3 interviewing for this job. And the interview with the hiring manager, the SVP of sales named Scott, was the Thursday after this race. Thursday. So I'd been through all of the earlier stages. They told me I was in the final 3. I'd also learned that I was the only person in the candidate pool who did not have VP experience and also happened to be the youngest person. So least experience, no VP experience, uphill battle, but hey, I'm there. I got a shot. I actually met with a mentor of mine, a guy who, of all places, went to Harvard Business School, right? Not the normal crowds I run in. But I met with him and I said, hey, his name's Lee. I said, Lee, what should I do to make sure I can do whatever I can to get this job? And I remember Lee, very smart, great guy, very humble, but, kind of got the Harvard thing to him. He said, hey, here's the thing, man. They're going to want to make you prove that you've got executive presence, that you could own the room, that you could run this division. I was like, okay. What exactly does that mean? He's like, you just have to take ownership, right? Take ownership. So one of the ways these interviewers do this, and they're tricky, is they will show up to the interview and they will provide no energy. They will have bad body language. They won't smile. And they will force you to create all of that in the room. That's one of the things these guys do. I go, really? People do that? And he's like, yes, this is how it works. well, I said, side note, if I ever get a job like that, I'm not doing that. I think that's weird. Why don't we just be real? He goes, hey, I'm just telling you to help you out, man. So when you go in there, get your big handshake, big smile, big energy, great enthusiasm. Show him you could own the space. You could run this division. Okay, I got it. So as I remember I get there, it's Thursday, again, after this race. I'm really prepared to like enter the room with some juice, right? I'm really excited for this. I'm thinking about Scott. I met him on the phone, but I had not met him in person. And so we didn't know that much about each other, just a little bit to kind of set it up, a little small talk. I remember thinking, I'm going to walk into this room like on the balls of my feet. I'm going to have a big kind of firm handshake, and I'm going to smile, like I'm going to really create some presence here. So as I walk into the room, and I'm expecting Scott, to do what Lee told me, right? Like basically nothing. So as I walk in, I open the door, and the first sight I see Scott, and what does he have? A giant smile on his face. Huge smile, and I'm thinking, okay, 0 for 1, Lee, that was wrong. This guy seems pretty excited to see me. So as I walk in, now I'm thinking balls on my feet, stand tall, shoulders back, big handshake, here we go. So as I get up to give him the big handshake to really start the executive presence part of this interview, I see Scott, who as he's walking towards me, and this part feels like slow motion, as he's walking towards me, he comes up, he brings his hand, and he grabs it like this, reaches the other arm around and gives the full-on bro hug, smacks my back super hard, thinking, I've never met this guy before. What is he doing? Who is this guy? What? He's hugging me before ever meeting me, bringing huge energy, big smile, big enthusiasm, the opposite of what I was told by my mentor to expect. And I thought it was, wow, this is weird. As we're walking back to sit down after the hug, Scott goes, hey, real quick, I went to University of Wisconsin for my undergraduate degree. And I thought, why in the world does that matter? I go, oh, okay, cool. And he goes, I'm actually a huge Wisconsin Badgers football fan. Okay, cool. I played college football. This is a good thing. We got this in common. He goes, in fact, I actually set Google alerts for Wisconsin Badger football. Wow, this is weird. Nobody's ever told me I didn't even know that was a thing. I've never set one before. You're telling me your Google alerts. And he goes, yeah, and one of them popped up this morning. And this is what it looked like. You guys show it on the screen. No, that's not it. Here it is. Look what popped up on the front page of ESPN.com, which triggered his Google alerts. NFL, a year and a half after retiring from NFL, Chris Borland fills void with advocacy. You see the highlighted part. In the story, he writes about the fact that this triathlon happened, and his brother Mark and Ryan Hawk was in this. And I think, what a wild thing to have happen when you think about this. Here, I'll put oh, sorry guys. You just go on the black one. When you think about how crazy this is, to me, I was just wowed because Scott, the guy interviewing me, happened to go to the same school as Chris. He happened to be a huge football fan and set alerts. And the alert popped up for this. And so we make this small talk back and forth for a while. And Scott says, that race, that's pretty wild. That has to be super demanding. And you got to have big discipline. And you got to work really hard. You got to be really gritty to do all that. Yep. That's exactly what I want in the guy running this division. And I said, Scott, well, then maybe I'm your guy. And so we had a good laugh. We had some fun. And I'm not going to say that that's why I got the job, but it was definitely the best initial 15 minutes of an interview that I've ever had by far. I did end up getting that job. That was the last real job I had before I left to do all of this stuff full time. And so I actually think it's good to walk through the chain of events that happened leading up to that, right? Because the ultimate learning from this story to me is not about like work ethic or preparation. I think those are good learnings. But the ultimate thing I learned is you never know. You never know the chain of events you may be starting by regularly pushing your edges. This is not just a physical thing, right? So sometimes you get off track thinking about, I got to run it right. No, no, no. I'm talking mentally, physically sometimes too, but you never know. Think about this, like, okay, one, I launched a podcast about 9 years ago to follow my own curiosity, to learn from people, to create my own formal leadership PhD program. Chris retires. I asked him to come on the podcast. We record. It was great. People seem to like it. We promised to be friends. Chris calls me to ask me to do the race. I obviously say no. Miranda says, "You sure about that?" I say yes. I call Caroline to ask for some help. Preparation is the greatest medicine for fear. I look at a black line for 8 weeks, and then the weekends go into the open water. I show up on race day. There's another guy who happens to be a national writer with a huge platform. We do the race. We do it pretty well. The story's written. The interview for the job that I really want happens to be the Thursday after this race, and happens to be with a guy who went to the same school as my teammate, who sets Google alerts for him. This is the part of the story that we call luck. Massive, massive luck. Most of that before this was not. Certainly there was luck when it comes to where I was born and my parents, yes, but most of these decisions, not. This, super lucky. I've found that people who regularly push their edges, mentally and physically, seem to create more luck for themselves. And then when they do, they make the most of it. Just, it's a weird how it happens. It just seems like that's the way it goes. They take agency over things, and then random, crazy, stupid luck happens every once in a while. And that's what I'd urge you to think about, right? What could that be for me? What could that be for me of whatever the thing is I'm afraid of or I don't really want to do? Doing it, you don't know the opportunities you might be creating for yourself. And that's why I would encourage you to push for those things. Okay, I know that was a long one. I got 2 more, and then we're going to get out of here or get on to your next thing. But that one's a big one for me because I think it can be a transformational type way to approach your life. Another element when it comes to leadership. This comes from a mentor of mine named Tom Ogburn, an amazing leader who he's in my ahead bucket for me. Just an amazing guy. And he said, hey, man, I remember right after I got promoted, Tom called me up, and he said, hey, just so you know, you're in a leadership role. You've chosen to lead. You got promoted. You no longer get to be energy neutral anymore. I said, what? He said, you no longer get to be energy neutral anymore. I go, what does that mean, Tom? He goes, well, before when you're just a follower and you're just there, you can kind of show up and do whatever you feel like it. But when you're the leader, you're the emotional thermostat. You're setting the dial. So you can either lift people up or you can bring them down based on how you enter a space, based on how you enter a room. We're all leaders in this room. We get to make this choice. The one choice we don't get to make anymore, if we choose to be leaders, is that of being energy neutral, right? And so like we don't get to do that anymore. We're like either giving it, we're adding it, we're making the room better by our presence, right? Or we're making it worse. This is the awesome and cool responsibility that comes with being a leader. Again, I want us to use our power for good. But we set that dial. We get to make that choice each and every day. The choice is, what will I do with it? Are we a giver? Are we going to lift people up? Or are we going to take it out of the room? This is something to think about anytime before you walk into those doors, before you show up on a virtual meeting, before you enter a space. Am I adding to this room or am I taking? We want to be energy adders, energy givers. And I think this sign that I found in Indiana University Health System is just perfect, right? Please, as leaders, I think this is great for us. Please take responsibility for the energy you bring into the space. Your words matter, right? Your behaviors matter. Our patients and our teams matter. Take a slow, deep breath and make sure your energy is in check before entering. Thank you. It's a great way to think about it. Great way to think about it before I enter a space. To me, it's about being intentional. how we choose to show up into each room that we enter. It's about being intentional. Like, I am coming here to make these people better, to lift the room up with my energy and enthusiasm and care and love for them. These are all choices. These are choices we get to make. Or I can say, well, my day's been rough and bad and terrible. I'm just going to dump all of that onto the people in this room. No, we're leaders. Leadership is a choice. We chose to lead. Huge responsibility because we impact so many people. How we show up really matters. Okay, let's do, what will you bring? Right? Another prompt. What will I bring? What will I bring? It's all about being thoughtful and intentional. When I think about the commonalities of leaders who have sustained excellence, 2 words I'd use: thoughtful, intentional. Thoughtful, intentional. They think, they reflect, every action's with intention. Okay, I got one more. This is a fun one, another personal one that I've tried to implement into my life based on what I've learned from other people from recording and interviewing so many cool leaders. So I'm in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, beautiful part of the country. I'd never been there before. Lake Coeur d'Alene is right, you can see it behind me. I gave a speech there in the morning, and my flight wasn't leaving until much later in the day, so I had a lot of time. Throughout the day, I always stop when I see the number 12 and take pictures. I was number 12. I guess it's a football thing, but I stopped, took a picture. I was out on a hike. I noticed right next to my hotel there was some would call it a big hill, some would call it a mountain. But Lake Coeur d'Alene, surrounded by some mountains. Really beautiful part. It was really awesome. I stopped here, took a picture, and I came across another sign with 2 options. There is the main loop trail you could continue on, or you could go to the summit of this mountain or large hill. And I thought, like, well, I have plenty of time. Let me try both. Let me see what this is all about. And so I decided to go on both of the trails to get a feel for what it's like. So I went to this one. Which one do you think this is? Right? You see you have 2 options, main loop. You notice the main loop is nice and wide, very comfortable. You can walk side by side with your friends. It's really nice. By the way, I'm a huge advocate for hiking and walking and being in nature. I think it's great. So there's nothing wrong with the main loop trail. I think it's great. We should all do this more. We'd probably all be better off if we did. So anyway, I walk down it. I walk around it. Very nice. Very cozy. Very comfortable. Lots of people. Not that hard. Just kind of walking around a mountain. Just main loop around. Let's go to the next one. Let's see what this looks like. See if it pops up here, guys. There we go. So you see what trail do you think this one is? So you notice the funny thing about the summit trail is there's actually like a few steps. Like people take like 3 or 4 steps. You know what I'm saying? You can see it here. They take like 3 or 4 steps, and then they look and they go, let's go to the other one. Let's just do the other one, right? And to me, is a great kind of embodiment for like how we operate in our lives. We are actually wired to choose the easier path. This comes from many, 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 many years ago, because at that point in our lives, we needed to do a couple things. We either needed to run away from something that would kill us, or we needed to run after something and kill it so that we could eat and feed our families, right? So in our DNA, biologically, we are programmed to take the easier path because we need to rest for the moments when our life is actually in danger, right? It's either hunting to support my family or running away from something that could kill me. This is the way it used to be a long time ago. This is still wired in our brains to behave this way. Michael Easter wrote a whole book called The Comfort Crisis. I had him on my podcast. We talked all about this. So we are wired to take the easier path. We have to intentionally choose the tougher path to condition ourselves, to help ourselves be in a better position to handle the tough parts of life. So to me, whenever you're faced with these 2 paths, I would think about the fact that we are wired to rest because our bodies and biologically we have not caught up yet. Even though we don't really, most of us at least, most of us don't have to run away from a saber-toothed tiger or we don't have to go out and hunt to provide for our family anymore. We can just buy the food, or we can just live in our homes without animals are there to kill us. But our brains have not caught up yet. So we're still wired to take the easier path. The problem with taking the easier path every day is that we don't condition ourselves to be able to handle the adversity as well as if we were intentionally choosing the tougher path. And so that's really what it's all about. It's like if we regularly put ourselves in the position of doing the things that most people won't, we will achieve and get things that most people won't get because they're not willing to do it. So it's an analogy, and while it's in this case, you have pictures to bring it to life. I urge you to think about that in your own life of when am I letting the instincts have me choose the easier path when I know, to me, that we have to regularly embrace the hard things because that stuff compounds over time and will better prepare us for the inevitable adversity that will strike. And as you guys all know, it will strike all the time. And I want all of us as leaders, regardless of what we're doing, to be better positioned to handle it when it does. And so instead of just letting it happen, I would rather us be intentional about seeking out those opportunities, right? Opportunities to better ourselves, to be better accustomed, to be better conditioned for when it's really hard. So here's the 5 as a recap. 1, who is your who? Think about this. Ahead, beside, behind, right? Rate those 5 to 1. 5 regularly scheduled time, 1 aspirational. I would hope some time from now that your who is in a better position, maybe a few months from now than it is today. That would be a huge win. A learning machine, right? Fuel the intake engine, experiment, reflect, teach it. Ask yourself at the end of the day, what did I do today to be a little bit wiser going to bed than I was when I woke up? Pushing your edges doesn't necessarily mean physically. It could, right? One of the other ways I push my edges is going to improv class. 3 days, all strangers. First thing we did when I went to improv class, stood on a stage in a big circle, pointed at people, including me. Hey, stand in the middle and sing in front of all these people. Super uncomfortable, but I was much better at the end of those 3 days than I was before it by doing really uncomfortable improv type stuff to be a better communicator. How are you pushing your edges? What did I do today? What did I do today to push my edges? You answer that regularly in the affirmative, you'll be in a better spot. As leaders, we do not get to be energy neutral. We don't get to, right? If we choose to lead, we are lifting a room up or we're bringing it down. When we make that choice, it's an awesome responsibility. Let's use our power for good. And then the path less traveled, right? There are going to be plenty of options in life and different times when you could go on the main loop or you can try to go to the summit. By regularly pushing yourself to go towards the summit, you are putting yourself in a better position to be able to handle the inevitable adversity that will strike. We know it will. To me, that's what this is all about. That's what this is all about, is better positioning ourselves to handle it and go forward and be better and better and better than we were today. I really appreciate your time. My name is Ryan Hawk, host of the Learning Leader Show, author of Welcome to Management and the Pursuit of Excellence. Thank you so much for having me today. This is great. Thank you. Oh, one more. Hey guys, one more. I said I'd give my email. I want to make sure I fulfill that promise. Here we go. So my email is ryan@learningleader.com. That's mine. Nobody else sees it. I meant it. I would love to get follow-ups from you. Also, if you want all of my stuff for free, you can text my last name, which is Hawk, H-A-W-K, to 66866. You'll get I send out a once-a-week email, and you can see all the stuff on my podcast. Nothing to buy, but everything for free that I would urge you to take a look at. So, cool. All right. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That wonderful? One more round of applause for Ryan. Thank you. Ryan, I know that I will, and I know everyone else in the room will go to bed tonight wiser than we woke up this morning. So thank you. And part of our theme this year has been polishing our diamonds at our institutions and being leaders at every level. So we now can focus on pushing those edges. Thank you very much.
Thank you.